approximately 3,200 years ago, the family of Israel, about 2 million people strong, left Egypt that first Passover night with a promise that God would not only redeem the Israelites from slavery and take them to be his own special people, but also give them an inheritance, their own land in Canaan. First, though, ahead of them was a journey to the ancient land of Midian and a meeting with Yahweh at the mountain of God. We close the book of Exodus with the study of Moses trekking up to the very top of Mount Sinai and back down 6 times, receiving the 10 Commandments and the blueprints for the tabernacle, all the while dealing with a rebellious but ultimately repentant nation of Israel. The tabernacle was completed, and God's presence filled the tabernacle, sealing his promise to dwell with them and also accompany them on their continued sojourn from the base of Mount Sinai to the promised land. It is this continued journey which is the focus of this study, a study of the Book of Numbers. What remained then for the Israelites was simply a journey to the promised land. However, what the new nation of Israel did not anticipate was this principle. Between the place where we receive the promise of God and the promised land, which is the fulfillment of the promise, there's usually a wilderness that is the exact opposite of what we've been promised. The Lord had promised Israel a land of milk and honey. Instead, they were led into a dry and dusty wilderness that did not even have any water. Now the Israelites had a new situation to deal with. How could a holy God actually dwell with his newly redeemed people who were still full of worldly habits and behaviors that often separated them from Yahweh? The book of Leviticus provides an answer to this question. In these scriptures given to Moses, God shows them how to worship, serve, and obey a holy God and fellowship with him through sacrifice and obedience. Most of the instructions given in this book are for the priests and Levites regarding the operations of the tabernacle. I love studying the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, because hidden within this real-life historical drama is a foreshadowing of the plans of Yahweh to redeem and restore not only the Jews, but mankind back to himself through his son, Jesus. The first 3 chapters and the last 2 chapters of the entire Bible constitute the complete story. At the beginning of Genesis, man is created and is in the Garden of Eden, enjoying total fellowship with God. In chapter 3, man rebels and loses that status. The rest of the Bible is devoted to restoring man to the position that he lost. In the last 2 chapters of Revelation, we learn that at the time of the revelation of Jesus Christ to the world, man's redemption will be completed when our Savior comes to redeem and restore mankind and his creation back to himself. Our fellowship with God will be restored once and for all for the ones who have believed in the Lord Jesus Christ and are saved by his shed blood. The Bible claims all things are written in the scriptures for examples for our learning, Romans 15:4. And the book of Numbers is no exception. Jesus can be found on every page if we just look. Let's jump into a study of the book of Numbers. By the way, the Jewish name for this book is Bimidbar, or in the wilderness. It's also been translated the book of journeyings, the book of murmurings, or the 4th book of Moses. Come with me as we read the journal of Joshua, Moses' assistant.
First day, 2nd month, 2nd year of our journey. It has been exactly 30 days after the erection of the tabernacle. What a wonder! We had all worked so hard building it exactly as God had requested from the blueprints God had given us from the top of the mountain. Often I think back about the wondrous moment when Yahweh's glory filled the tabernacle, hovering over the Holy of Holies. The glory was so powerful and magnificent, even Moses could not enter into the tabernacle. Moses had seemed so discouraged after we came down from the mountain to discover the people worshiping the golden calf. But now that God has forgiven us and promised to go with us to the promised land again, he has been renewed with excitement for the journey. We are still mourning the loss of Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's two oldest sons, as they did not respect the word of the Lord and offered profane fire to the tabernacle. Their carelessness and disobedience and their role as priests cost them their life. I have known them all their lives, and while they were not my personal favorites, their loss has affected us all, with a sober reminder that Yahweh is God and we are not. As we await our departure, we are completing the task Yahweh has directed us to do. Today I have been busy helping Moses and Aaron. Yahweh instructed them to take account of all the men of military age, that is, 20 and up, by tribe. Yahweh himself named one man from each son of Jacob, including Ephraim and Manasseh, both having a portion representing Joseph, and assembled the entire congregation as the men recited the names of the heads of the households in each of the tribes one at a time. I was busy writing down the numbers, and here are the results. Our new nation of Israel has 603,550 fighting men ready to go to war, and we didn't even count the tribe of Levi. I am keeping record of all the counts on this drawing. Second year, second month, third day. After the census, some of the men grumbled because the men of Levi were not counted to serve in the military. But Yahweh had clearly said that the Levites were to not be numbered in this way. The Levites were to take of the tabernacle all the things in around it. I tried to explain to them that only the Levites were allowed to break down, transport, and set up the tabernacle. Most of them knew that Aaron's family were to be priests. They were to take care of the sanctuary and also direct the activities of the Levites. But the descendants of the three sons of Levi, Gershom, Merari, and Kohath, were all have separate duties as well. The Kohathites are to be in charge of the veil, the ark, the lampstand, the altars, and the utensils. The sons of Merari will take care of the boards, bars, pillars, sockets, and some of the rest of the utensils. The Gershonites will be setting up the tabernacle itself, tent, and the screen door. We work today on counting the Levites, this time every male from 1 month old and above. Yahweh explained to Moses that the Levites were to be a tribe totally unto himself. They would represent the firstborn of all of Israel and be dedicated wholly to him. He wanted the Levites to camp all around the tabernacle, protecting it. They were to be the closest ones at all times, as can be seen in my sketch. I'm getting very excited because I believe we are getting close to the date of our departure. Yahweh has been giving us our camping arrangements and marching orders. Even the precision of how we are to set up the marching orders and camp from now on was designed by Yahweh himself. He had spoken to Moses about how this was to be done. I sketched this diagram for myself. Being the military commander I am, interested in studying the mind of the ways of Yahweh, I do see the genius in it. The men of Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, who camp directly to the east of the tabernacle, are to move out first with their families, each under the emblem Judah the lion. 2/3 of the Levites, the sub-tribes, Gershom and Merari, are to follow next with the tabernacle. Next, the Reubenites, along with Simeon and Gad, camping to the south of the tabernacle, will depart, each under the flag of Reuben. His flag bears a man carrying a mandrake. Yahweh made it clear that the Kohathites were to follow them, carrying the holy things. That way, the tabernacle could be set up by the other Levites upon their arrival at the campsite, and the holy articles could be placed inside the holy place when the Kohathites arrived. Behind them would travel the forces of Ephraim, the ox, and accompanied by Manasseh and Benjamin, who camped to the east. Bringing up the rear guard is the army of Dan, Asher, Naphtali, under the flag of Dan, the serpent, from the north. I discovered that the diagram of the camp is an interesting shape. It's in the shape of a cross. I wonder if there is some military genius in this camp design. Is it for a reason? In any case, as the military leader of our camp, I am determined to follow Yahweh's directions exactly. We will all remember what happened to the sons of Aaron. I am amazed to discover how precise Yahweh is in all his directions and dealings. After we counted all the males of the tribe of Levi, then the Lord had us number the firstborn males of all of Israel. Because he had dedicated the firstborn males to himself, numbering 22,273, he agreed to substitute the entire male population of the tribe of Levi for that obligation. Remember, they numbered exactly 22,000. However, he did not call it an even trade. For the extra 273 firstborn males to be redeemed, he required the families of the firstborn males to contribute an offering of 5 shekels per male. Moses and I oversaw the collection of the funds and delivered it to Aaron for the treasury in the tabernacle. I am so fascinated by the ways of Yahweh. 2nd month, 8th day. Today, Moses and Aaron and I have been busy directing a different counting of the Levites. This time, the males aged 30 to 50 years old, as Yahweh had described to Moses. That way, we will know how many males are available to serve in the tabernacle, teach the law, and transport the holy things. I am convinced that having the Lord's presence with us now is an even more tangible way is encouraging to everyone. The anticipation of the journey is building in the camp. We are all weary of the desert and the heat, but I am learning that Yahweh has reasons for every simple thing he asks us to do. And we must trust his direction no matter what. I, for one, am so excited to see with my own eyes the land of milk and honey that Yahweh has promised. After watching the deliverance of our people from Pharaoh and the total destruction of his army of the Red Sea, I am confident if we keep following his lead, we will soon be settled in the promised land of Caanan.
If we take the time to look, we can uncover many of the rich treasures found buried deep in the words of God. I was surprised to discover that the camp of Israel so long ago was arranged in the shape of a cross. Jesus was there all along in the desert, all around. He is in the little details in our deserts too, if we choose to look. In my long desert year of intense illness, God sent 113 different bird species to me to photograph, most of them in the tree outside my window. It is important also that we learn to follow God's directions exactly, even the tiny details found in the scriptures. Everything is there for a reason. More importantly, it's interesting to study what the Israelites did while they were at the base of Mount Sinai in the wilderness. They were organizing the camp. They were preparing for their journey. They were busy studying the Torah, preparing themselves spiritually, and fortifying their army. In our lives, there are times when we camp and when we journey. Let's learn from Moses and Joshua that when we are camped, we do not become careless and complacent, but fortify ourselves physically and spiritually for the moment when God lifts the cloud in our lives and calls us to journey. Throughout this 8-session study, I will be sharing with you some photographs taken on my own journey to Jebel Makla, the mountain I believe to be the real Mount Sinai, not in Egypt, but in Saudi Arabia, near the land of ancient Midian. If you're interested in this topic, be sure to watch my study on the Book of Exodus, also found on YouTube, and on my website at birdchurch.net. As we trace the journey from Mount Sinai to Shittim on the map, I will be using the maps of Glenn Fritz for the locations of Mount Sinai and Kadesh Barnea, as well as other biblical locations. Be sure to follow this study on the website also, as I have supplemental videos and lesson plans there as well. See you in Lesson 2.
And the lover of my soul, Creator God, He